Sethikus, Boza, Black Earth Productions, Blue Flame, Healing Arts, Occult Science, and I am speaking with the current initiate, Cahlen, who's hit me up for a follow-up session and wants to get into the tarot. Watched that video a couple times already. The most recent segment.
Yeah, we went over it a little bit in our one-on-one first call together, but then, yeah, your recent video was really helpful, and it left me with more questions, so I was hoping we could just kind of dive into that a bit.
Okay. Now, did I end up giving you the planetary correspondence for the first 10 cards? I want to give you the planetary correspondence if I haven't done it yet. Okay.
That sounds good. Yeah, we didn't go over it in our session, so yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
This is something new that I've been doing with current initiates. Lined it the fuck out, and it's to do with the original 7 planetary spheres, basically the ones we can see in the sky. We'll take it back to the first 10 cards. We can get into whatever the fuck you want, but I really want to give you this, all right, man? Because the way you're going to relate to the Fool card, given over to the planetary correspondence, there's essentially no planetary correspondence for the Fool. Because it's everything to do with the circle of the magician. It's everything to do with the fulcrum, making connection to the higher force, drawing the circle. Needs to be practiced and mastered before venturing forth, man, getting into the magician and the high priestess. And again, we put the high priestess first before the magician, okay?
Okay.
The Fool, the planetary correspondence for the Fool is the sun. For the magician and the high priestess, Saturn is being addressed here with both of these cards. The high priestess, though, is also the moon. And it's interesting, man, this is where we get the whole Saturn-Moon matrix paradox from, because they put the magician first, and it's the dark priest class suppressing the divine feminine and shutting out the proper knowledge and wisdom of the fucking vortex, man, when you make connection to the higher force. It's the last fucking
when you're saying that the priestess comes before the magician, like, are you thinking the number should actually change? The priestess should be 1 and the magician should be 2?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's one of the blinders that the dark ones put in the tarot. I talked about blinders in the video. There's other blinders too, but that's the very first one. And see, most people, man, they don't get past the fucking magician, even people that have been initiated, because they get drawn into the left wing and the right wing brotherhood fucking bullshit that's literally illustrated in the magician cards with the lilies and the roses, man. And in order to wield the elements correctly, you have to come into the temple, the high priestess, and become the master of your thoughts and emotions, man, within the fulcrum of the circle of the magician. Then you can start to learn how to wield the elements. But again, it's all different for everybody. And also dive into the art and science and numerology, man. It all correlates. And see, the fucked up thing is that a lot of people end up taking these arts and sciences into Kabbalah. And I don't condone that shit, because the first 3 ancient arts of Gnosis are nothing to do with Kabbalah whatsoever. Even though it's been incorporated, this is how they hijacked the proper knowledge and wisdom and then use it against us and with covert mind control and all this fucking shit that the dark priest class does. Okay, and this all goes back to Samaria, really ancient fucking shit, man, that is taking place. And I still have a lot of magicians trying to fucking refute me when it comes to Kabbalah and all that. You know, that video I put out with Lord Osseron Yggdrasil, Spindle of the True Universal Tree of Life, that shit cannot be refuted, man. It cannot be fucking refuted. And I practiced Kabbalah, man, for about 10 years. And I traveled those Sephiroth and had interface with angelics and even went into the Klepothian grid works within the lower astral. Anyone that works with that system, they're going to hit that fucking ceiling, man. So in 2011, going into February of 2012, things really started kicking off in November of 2011. It was like a spike. February of 2012, quarantine was lifted, man. It was all out fucking war in the ethers. It's the thing about the fucking magician. He's holding the wand of the ether. Above his head is the symbol of infinity, and around his waist is the Ouroboros. So that motherfucker, he's operating in a closed loop system that is designed to feed on itself, man. The secret of the lilies and the roses, man. This is where the Rosicrucians get their name. The Rose Cross, all that fucking shit, which is an inverted cross. Inverted.
What are the fruit in the priestess card?
Well, fruit as a symbol represents knowledge, man. So the proper knowledge and wisdom of the high priestess. With the high priestess, she sits between the pillars of Jachin and Boaz. And as far as I'm concerned, she's actually warning against Kabbalah. She's warning against that shit, man. Because you go into that and start to work in context to having interface with the angelics, you're going to get leashed the fuck out by the dark gods, man. And see, it's funny because Raziel is my patron in the angelic gridworks. And Raziel told me straight the fuck up, Kabbalah is horse shit. So I don't give a fuck what any other magician out there fucking says, man.
I'm actually not even very familiar with Kabbalah. So the pillars here are relating to something about...
Yeah, the pillars of Jachin and Boaz. Kabbalists say that Jachin and Boaz represent strength and beauty, but what they actually represent is polarity. And she sits between the pillars of polarity with the cross of the shaman on her chest. And this is to do with the 4 cardinal directions. This is to do with the 4 main dragon lineages. White dragon is of the north, red dragon is of the west, yellow dragon is of the east, and black dragon is of the south. And the Native Americans actually use those 4 colors with the medicine wheel. 4 cardinal directions. The cross of the shaman, the Axis Mundi, is there on her fucking chest, man. And she holds the scroll in her hand that says Torah, right? But Torah here is, wait a second, is this the first 5 books of the Bible? Because that's what everyone thinks Torah is. This is what the fucking Jews did. And they hijacked this art and science and then gave us a fucking whole bunch of fucking bullshit through the religion of Christianity and Islam, man. That's all the same fucking cube cult shit. Kabbalah folds into a cube, man. That structure, it's a fucking cube, man. Metatron, all that shit.
Would you say that she is also warning against the Torah as well?
No, the true Torah is the tarot. Coming into her temple, the moon is at her feet, right? What does moon represent again? How our thought and emotion operates. So not only is it the moon here with the high priestess, but it's also Saturn. And so the way you're going to relate to the high priestess is your moon in Scorpio in the 6th house and your Saturn in Libra in the 6th house. This is how she's going to teach you, learning how to wield the elements. And then, of course, you look at the elements you got to work with here. My moon's also in Scorpio in the 12th house. So it's a little bit different. You know, 6th house is Virgo, not just with your moon, but also Mercury. Your Mercury is also conjunct your moon in Scorpio in the 6th house.
So what's an example affecting how I would think about this card showing up in a reading?
Again, this is how you are going to relate to the symbolism of the high priestess and how she's going to teach you the proper knowledge and wisdom that you need in order to become the master of your thought and emotion. Okay. And it's also Saturn. And Saturn, again, is our test in life. It's our karma. It's our ignorance, man. And so all the setbacks, delays, disappointments, all the fucking trials, man, all that shit, that's what Saturn is there to forge you in. And so it's interesting, too, because your Saturn's in Libra in the 6th house, which is conjunct your moon in the 6th house, and also your Mercury in the 6th house with Scorpio. It's fucking wow. And I have my moon in Libra in the Vedic system, so I really understand, you know, having to find that balance and harmony. It all corresponds with itself, man. So going back to the planetary correspondence, though, the planetary correspondence for the Fool, again, is the sun. So the way you relate to the Fool card is your sun in Sagittarius in the 6th house. And that's what the higher force is going to be addressing, your will force, what drives you, your ego, coming into alignment with your core. Or it's going to be fucking hijacked, otherwise eclipsed, and you're going to be taken in the pollen of the white lily, man. That's that dark sorcery. And not seeing what's revealed in the fires of calcination and putrefaction, because, you know, coming onto the true magical path is the alchemical initiation, man. That bag of denial, that bag of shit, that's what that wand of fire goes to burn the fuck out, the blackening state specifically. And a lot of people that want to get into the occult, they want to get into magic, they get caught in context to the symbolism of what's happening with the magician. And that motherfucker doesn't even know how to wield the elements. He's wielding the wand of the ether. Again, he has the symbol of infinity above his head. I never heard anybody else talk about it in this fashion. There's a lot of different ways that one can interpret the cards. But again, the best way to study tarot is to study tarot and listen to what it reveals to you in light of what you have going on with your disposition. So the Fool is the sun, high priestess is the moon and Saturn, the magician is Saturn. Next is the empress, which is Jupiter. After that is the emperor, which is Mars. After that is the hierophant, which is Venus. Lovers is Mercury. Chariot is also the moon. Strength is the sun, and the Hermit is also Mercury. Okay, so I just gave you the planetary correspondence for the first 10 cards. From there, the cards spiral out onto the galactic spiral of creation and then collapse back in on the spindle of the energy force with the first 10 cards, 0 through 9 with other corresponding cards.
So would the 0, does it have any relationship, but let's say 1, does that correspond to the ace in some way?
As far as I'm concerned, all the aces are to do with 0.
So then you would say the aces correspond to the Fool, which means it corresponds to the sun.
No.
Nope. Okay.
No planetary correspondence with the elements there. Those are all the elements that are coming forth from their primordial womb. Fire is the first element, the wand. Okay, and then water, which is the cup. And then, of course, you have the swords and the pentacles as well. Studying the minor arcana in context to the elements that you have to work with here is how the minor arcana is going to teach you how to wield the elements that you have to work with the planetary correspondence. Does that make sense, man?
Yep.
It's like, this is going to be a lifelong fucking study, man. You're going to get more revealed to you, as you progress, man. But, we can get into the symbolism of the cards and really anything you want to get into, man. So.
Well, yesterday I was laying the cards out, the actual numbers, the 4 numbers from each of the 4 suits, and trying to see if I could understand some sort of relationship between them. But I really wasn't able to see anything. Do you feel like all the 3s have something in common?
Yeah, that's interesting. All of the elements are their own element. Again, there's the magicians of the elements. You have the psychological disposition to be a magician, man. The way you're going to relate to all of the suits and court cards and the aces of the cups is your Scorpio energy now. This is where the high priestess is going to teach you how to become the master of the water elements, specifically starting with your thought and emotion, man. Because this is very fucking intense for you.
Well, I've kind of isolated myself so I can stay sane.
Right. You're probably out away from people. You're not like in this fucking city and shit, right?
Yeah, right.
Right. I mean, there's so many things I can get into with you, man.
Right. Well, that's what I'm going for. I mean, really, all I have is questions that come to my mind while we're talking here. So it sounds like the 2s of each suit, they don't necessarily have similarities. They're kind of specific to their suit, and there's a progression there as you go up the numbers, which is specific to the suit. If that's true, does that carry over into like the king and the queen, or would you say that there's a relationship between the kings, or is there something general that can always be said about
the relationship with all of the court cards and the suits is to do with the elements and what the elements are working to teach you, man. So in the case of the 2 of cups, this is everything to do with your heart united union with yourself, with another person. It can include friendship as well, shit that's platonic. It's not just romantic. Cups, suits is to do with emotion, man. Like what I got into specifically with all the elements in the segment. This is what the minor arcana is addressing specifically. So it's the element working to get your attention, and then you take that back to your personal disposition. That is how people need to work with the fucking tarot, not this random shit. Because it's not specific enough. When I do tarot readings, it's very, very fucking specific. 2 of Cups, some other things. It's the reflections. The 2 of Cups specifically is everything to do with a mirror. I'm a mirror unto myself. And you need to be very careful about who you allow to be a mirror for you. Because if they don't got their fucking shit together and they're speaking into your fucking life and all this kind of stuff, they can really fuck you up. Because what they're projecting within the unconscious, subconscious mind field is now coming into your field. Okay?
Yeah, and actually the Circle of the Magician has been very helpful for that. I mean, I was kind of starting to notice that before I got into that, but as soon as I did, you know, kind of setting this space every single day, getting familiar with what's there when everything else is expelled, helps me to see when something is coming in, you know, later in my day when I'm off doing other things.
Mm-hmm.
So you talked a little bit about the 2 of Cups. So just give me kind of an example. Go on to the Wands, like what you kind of described the 2 of Wands for a second.
Yeah, the 2 of Wands is everything to do with the conqueror at the edge of the world. Okay, he's at the edge of the world. He's the conqueror. The 2 of Wands is everything to do with expansion. It's fire. It's the fire element. So pushing your will into the fucking universe, the will force, it's the fire element. Go back to the Fool card. What's the very first element? It's fire, man. So the expansion, the burning away of fucking all the doubt. You could say the logical extension of an idea, exploring your desires, conquering new ground, fucking pushing beyond your fucking limits. It's everything to do with the strength of your will, man. It's the will force that is fire. You know, stimulation towards goals and objectives and discovery of expansion beyond your fucking limitations.
How would that contrast to the Three of Wands then?
Okay. The Three of Wands is addressing different things. The Three of Wands is all about magnetizing that which you've set forth as intention to you. It's all about opportunities coming in, man. Making plans for the future, always staying a few steps ahead of yourself. We're playing cosmic fucking chess here, man. Going over your investments. Three of Wands has everything to do with being self-employed, being sovereign. It's very business oriented shit with the three. It's everything to do with the things that you're magnetizing towards yourself in light of what you're pushing out into the universe with the two. Does that make sense?
Yep. So how do you, when you're looking at these cards, are you largely looking at the image itself? I noticed you use a different deck than me. So do you feel like the symbolism is going to be different between the one I have and the one you have?
Well, the deck that I use is more advanced deck, but it's based upon the symbolism and archetypes of the Rider-Waite. You're using the Rider-Waite deck, correct?
Right.
Yeah. Just stick with that one. Don't worry about all the other decks out there. That's just to build the proper foundation for studying this art and science, and then you can get other decks and check out the symbolism and having that proper foundation.
So all the decks are interpreting something a little bit differently, yet these have all these commonalities. Talk about ones that you consider to be legitimate.
Okay.
What is the seed here? And I'm not talking about the seed all the way back when it was created. I mean the seed of what was left after everything was burned or destroyed. We believe it goes back very, very far into human history, much farther than our actual history goes.
As far as I'm concerned, other people would argue different.
Right.
And so,
but from your perspective, at some point, after all the cataclysms, after, you know, everything fell apart over and over again, at some point, there was some seed of it left over, and someone started to remake the cards, and now we have a variety of decks. And
yeah, the Rider-Waite deck came out in the early 1900s. People knew about it back then, but it really started coming back to the forefront here in context, I would say around the 1970s. I mean, doing readings and stuff, that's one way to work with the tarot. But the way I'm talking about working with the tarot, man, is real fucking magic in context of learning how to wield the elements that you have to work with in correspondence with the other arts and sciences.
So what I'm asking is, at some point, what details for a single card, are you saying those details come from the Fabian Society?
No, I never said that.
Okay.
I never once fucking said that. I'm just saying that a lot of the stuff that started being pumped out in the late 60s, the hippie movement, all that, you know, early 70s is like, it's nothing that's ever really gone away. It just started becoming more popular.
Where did they get the information, would you say? The deck that I have.
There's the Tarot of the Bohemians by BFHAOS, and the most popular one that a lot of people were working with for a really long time, Tarot Marcel, man. Tarot Marcel came out in the 15th century in Italy. But yeah, Tarot Marcel, Tarot of the Bohemians, and then the Rider-Waite. But as far as the symbolism and where the tarot actually, a lot of people say that it was created in Egypt.
I mean, do you agree with that? I mean, I know people
think it's far fucking older than that.
Yeah.
Because again, with the High Priestess specifically, she's warning against Kabbalah, as far as I'm concerned.
The way you talk about it, it's a pretty big deal.
I think it is, because a lot of people that are working with this art and science aren't using it to the full potential that's there. I think that the wisdom councils themselves were the individuals that created this specific system in order for us to learn how to master human consciousness and build that bridge between the solar and the galactic spiral, like I'm talking about. Like everyone's into aliens and angels and all this fucking shit, right? But you're not even sovereign as a fucking human. You can't even stand in front of the fucking gods as an equal until you know thyself. And see, this is what's happened in the world. We're bowing down to the gods. We're bowing down to the goddesses. What the fuck? Why would a god need my worship? Why would a god need my prayers or my sacrifice? That's not a god. That's a fucking dark one. Okay?
Parasite.
Right. So as far as the symbolism goes, one of the most pure decks out there, like I said, is the Rider-Waite deck. He got his insights from Tarot Marcel. It was something that he created to basically make an update. There's other decks that I work with. I have the Om script, the Ogum script, or Om script, the U tree, Ash tree. But the Tarot, it's fucking timeless, man, as far as I'm concerned.
You mentioned that it is specific to humans. So it seems to me like it's a little bit like Joseph Campbell, you know, it's talking about themes in the human's life, but I don't really understand why it would be specific to humans and not specific to beings in general.
Because it's the bridge between the solar and the galactic spiral, man. Now, if, say, an entity really wants to be involved here, they have to fucking incarnate. They have to take on human consciousness. They have to take on a human vessel. There's humanoids out there that look human, but they're not fucking human. They don't act human. They're fucking psycho. And the true trials of initiation, they've been lost, man. This is why I'm working to reinstate this fucking shit with our school, so that people have the opportunity to learn these arts and sciences again in a fashion where it's not going to be some general thing. You see how it correlates to you as an individual. That's the difference here. And again, if we are going to bridge worlds that want to be involved with what's actually going on here, instead of sucking off the fucking life force and consciousness and genetics and energy of mankind, they have to fucking incarnate. It's the same thing to say if we as a spirit to soul code essence were to incarnate Andromeda, we would look Andromedan physically, and we would have to master that. And see, this is all the fucking shit that people are into, man. But they have no fucking clue who the fuck they are, and they're getting leashed out by the dark gods with all of this inverted fucking bullshit, because it's not better on the other fucking side. Every fucking known being that actually exists, I mean, the Orions or the Andromedans or Arcturians, all of this galactic spiral grid works, they have no fucking clue who the fuck they are here. People that are into all this false ascension bullshit and spiritual escapism. The tarot is everything to do with spiritual self-mastery. I mean, especially with the first 10 cards, man. And becoming a complete human, a fully aware human. And all of that propaganda that they peddle the fuck out, if that's all people want, then that's what they're going to fucking get. That's not what I want, and that's not what I incarnated for. So the tarot, it has taught me a lot of things. I'm still learning new shit every fucking day.
Yep.
And there's things that the tarot is going to reveal to you that are going to be highly unique. And then you come and then you share, and it's like, holy fuck. And we're growing and evolving and learning and ebbing and flowing.
So I guess I'm trying to understand how different a non-human's experience is. If we can say that the tarot doesn't relate to you unless you're human, would you say that's true of the death card?
You want to talk about the death card and what the death card actually is?
Sure, let's do it.
Let's talk about death. My sweet friend. This is Scorpio. It's the 13th card. Death is birth as death is birth, man. When you're going through the trials of initiation, you're going to experience many, many fucking deaths, especially being a moon in Scorpio. I just went through a major fucking death and rebirth. Another round in the fucking Athenor. Mm-hmm. It's all of the sunset roads of metamorphosis. It's all of the transitions and the transformations. When people see the death card, they think I'm going to fucking die, you know, but they're looking at it on a surface level. Like that's a bad card to get. No, that's not necessarily the case. It's everything to do with transformation. It's everything to do with metamorphosis, man. It's everything to do with letting go of the old self, letting the old shit fucking die. Gets melted to fucking nothing within the fucking cocoon and then transforms into a butterfly.
So that seems like, I mean, if we're talking about principles in the Kabbalion, like rhythm and polarity and laws of correspondence and all that, those are non-human specific.
The cosmic laws are cosmic.
Yeah.
They're actually universal in context to the universal spiral of creation. But to get onto that trajectory, you have to study that shit. Then by applying that to yourself here in Midgard, you're going to have that trajectory onto the universal spiral, which is coming in the future with more advanced initiation. But I can't get to that yet because people, they don't even know how to fucking navigate the solar spiral, let alone the galactic. All of the death and rebirth and letting go of the old and cutting away of the shit that we don't fucking need anymore. This is what the death card is all about. There are universal principles in the tarot, but the first 10 cards specifically is all about becoming a complete human, becoming the master of your fucking existence, becoming the master of yourself. That's what the Hermit card is. He's the fucking master. There's no more powerful magician in the fucking tarot than the fucking Hermit. And there's no difference between the Fool and the Hermit, ultimately, because both are holding the wand of fire. It's just that the Hermit, he's been through those trials. He's been through that death and rebirth again and again and again to reach that level of awareness, that level of self-mastery that we all have potential to come to. And it's different for everybody. The Hermit is fucking Odin. The Hanged Man is also Odin. So there are correlations to other beings, but it's more to do with universal principles that have been put into the tarot. That's the trajectory to where we are going. But to get to that fucking level, you have to become a complete human first. So death, it was said that the wizards of old were able to travel the stars. When you come onto the true magical path, which is what this is all about, you will inevitably have interface with something, all right? And this is the trick, because with that magician card, this is where a lot of people get caught in the ether within the 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8. You take 0 out of the equation, you get caught. And on the highest levels in our reality field, it all goes back to the brotherhoods, man. Dark priest class, running shit behind the fucking scenes so that they can harvest that energy into the fucking ether.
The things that you're saying, they feel true. I've been fooled so many times by people that I have to actually explore things for myself. I put a lot of trust in you because I recognize that you have good intentions and that you're...
That's fine, dude. You know, but definitely look into everything I'm saying. Just don't take my word for it.
Exactly.
I don't want anyone to take my word for fucking anything.
Right.
Ever.
And I don't. I just want to say though that your word does hold a lot of weight. When I look through this deck, a lot of it does speak to me in a way that I don't quite understand.
Let's talk about the Two of Swords. Swords is everything to do with the ravaging of the fucking mind. That does come up during the alchemical initiation. Two of Swords is the fulcrum of the fucking mind itself. At a crossroads, wearing the blindfold, and she got two swords, make a decision. If the Two of Swords comes up, it's time to fucking just stop, pause. Because if you just go all the time, you might not see something, and that's why she's fucking blind. So you got to slow the fuck down to see the path before you. Otherwise, you might miss the turn that you need to make. Or don't go a certain fucking direction at the crossroads. Fears that come up in making decisions, how fear can blind us from making a certain decision. Change is imminent, but then all the fears come up that blind us.
So you mentioned that Swords is largely about mental turmoil or challenge. Swords is the air element. So is the air element itself related to mental challenge?
Absolutely. It's everything to do with intellect and true intelligence. And there's a difference between intellect and true intelligence. The two have to be in alignment, otherwise you're going total left brain trajectory, looking at reality from a horizontal linear perception. Intuition needs to be integrated so that you know how to make the fucking decision. Vertical axis. And this is what people need to come up on if they're going to get a full spectrum view of what the fuck is actually going on. Because with that horizontal axis, that's the 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, and it just feeds on itself. It doesn't go anywhere. Where are we actually fucking going? Change is the only constant. So when faced with the Two of Swords, the fears come up. It's all about just taking a step back and reassessing shit, recalibrating the alignment to that true intelligence, being that inner guidance, right? It's all the paradoxes, man. It just depends on who you are as an individual. Two of Pentacles, and this is everything to do with learning the dance of change. He's got 2 pentacles in either hand, learning how to adapt to a situation, juggling responsibilities. You're having to learn how to be flexible. You have to learn how to bend a certain fucking way. And also, you might have to let go of one of those pentacles to really go to the next level. It's wisdom, it's to do with wealth, it's to do with resources. And so you might have to make an investment, and you're juggling options of what do I need to invest into, as an example of what the Two of Pentacles might be addressing. Changing your perspective as another example, and having to deal with that flux, all of the ups and downs in life, you know, the teeter-totter shit. You're up one minute, you're down the next, you don't know what the fuck is going on, right? This is the Two of Pentacles, man. Kind of in a nutshell.
So based on a lot of what you've said in multiple places I've heard you talking about this, there is definitely power to these cards, and just engaging with these cards and thinking about them is going to influence things both in the future and in the past. You've also mentioned the weird weaving there. Where do you feel its energy, its ability to change comes from?
Well, again, take it back to the wands. It's everything to do with the will force itself. Soul spark essence, man. Will force. Their soul spark is being eclipsed out by denial. Denial of responsibility for your own evolution. Ultimately, we need to become the king of each suit in alignment with the ace. But it's the journey and the lessons of the elements that are being addressed with the minor arcana. Okay, because there's 22 major arcana, and then there's 56 minor arcana, and they all correlate with the first 10 cards, 0 through 9.
So would you say then that the power of the tarot comes from the individual who's using it, assuming they're not stuck in that apathetic mindset?
Right, and everything we do in practice here all goes back to the first cosmic law. It's all about your state of mind. Mind in context to sound, consciousness, energy, frequency, vibration. There's many different grid works of consciousness coming into the place of expansion beyond our limitations. That's what the twos are addressing specifically. Got to make a fucking choice. It's not anything to do with how you fucking feel, because if you got a shitty fucking attitude, you're not going to be able to make a fucking clear decision about anything. Or if you don't have enough viable, proper knowledge and wisdom. See, that's the thing. We all still need more proper knowledge and wisdom. There is still not enough viable, proper knowledge and wisdom. More is going to be revealed as we continue to evolve as humans. You know, there's no rival point, like I've said. So coming to that point, you realize that you're on a fucking journey. And it's not so much about the destination once you come to the things that you learn, becoming the master of yourself, that are more important, that are going to hold you in the position of that trajectory of your destiny. That's that unshakable fucking foundation. And if anything comes to try to fuck with that, it's going to get its ass handed to itself. That's the circle, fully fucking grounded within the fulcrum, and you fucking know. And truth can be known. But the way that we are all navigating reality is highly unique. And so it's all about coming to know how these arts and sciences work for you as an individual. It's to know thyself. And we're not going to know the universe, what the gods and goddesses truly are, let alone how to make connections to the higher force without proper knowledge and wisdom.
Well, Sethikus, I think that's a good place to end it. If you do end up posting this online, I do want to say to anyone listening that Sethikus gave me a reading during our first call, and it was totally mind-blowing. So if you're interested in this type of stuff, I definitely recommend hitting him up for that. Anything you want to say before we head out, Sethikus?
I want to say I appreciate you following through with things and continuing to dive deep. There's a lot of things that you and I have talked about one-on-one, man. And so, yeah, people want to get a hold of me, send me an email at blackearthproductions@hotmail.com. Check out the services page like I talked about. We'll get things the fuck going. And I definitely look forward to the next time we speak, man. In light of all of this, like I mentioned, where are we going to take these arts and sciences as magicians now? The potential for us to take shit to the next level, especially now going into 2025 and 2027, it's going to come back to the fucking forefront as far as I'm concerned. Because all of the issues in the fucking world that we're actually dealing with all go back to psychology. Learning how to discover not only what the fuck is going on with us, but how to master ourselves as individuals. Awesome, man. Great talking.
Yeah, you too. I definitely have a lot of questions about the future. I mean, you do talk about it a decent amount, and you have mentioned before, the past isn't necessarily how the future will be. but there are some things we need to reclaim. I think that'd be a great thing to talk about next time, perhaps.
Absolutely, man. I look forward to it.
Me too. All right, take it easy.